Hello, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back, technologists. I know I have taken some time off from recording because life be fucking lifing sometimes. And I have just had a busy summer with my children. So, they're out of school, summer school is done. And now I got to figure out how to entertain my kids. So I see a lot of splash pads and a lot of just water activities because that's what my kids love to do, or at least one of them. So, in today's episode, I am going to be touching on a interesting topic. Okay. So, before we do that, let's clear some housekeeping. So, I am going to teach a wonderful live event where I am going to show you 3 ways on how to become the go to CT tech currently at your facility. So I am hosting this live event, okay, which make sure you follow me on Instagram because I'm going to be posting a lot about it on Instagram. It is going to be July 31st, August 1st, and August 2nd. So it's going to be in the evening at 8:30 CST, so that's Central Standard Time. So make sure you check out my stories. And if you want to get on the email list, so you know exactly when I'm dropping this challenge, there will be a link below in the show notes. I will make sure everything is there. Okay. So check it out. It's going to be good. We're going to have some fun and it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited to teach because it's been a little while since I've taught anything live. And that is like my go to. I love to do it. So make sure you do that. Okay. I'm also kicking off this event. I am going to also kick off opening the doors to my new program, my coaching and mentoring program that I have for new CT technologists. So make sure you check that out. I will have all the links in the show notes, and there is an application that you can fill out to see if you're a good fit for this program. So I'm going to have not only for new CT technologists, but I'm going to have a tier. So if you're mid-level, if you're advanced, there is a program there for you. I'm super excited about it. It's taken me many months of planning, many months of trying to get tech right, and many months of just setting things up. So I'm super excited to roll this out. So make sure you follow on Instagram, check out the show notes. All the links will be there. So let's dive into today's episode. Today's episode, I'm going to be telling my story on how I became a CT technologist. Now, I know there have been some prior episodes where I have discussed this. This one, I'm going to go into more detail on how I got interested in radiology and just all the juicy details. So here we go. So, how I got interested in radiology as a whole. When I was in high school, I had graduated high school in 1996. So, yes, I'm showing my age as far as how old I really am. So, I was working in an accounting office at the time, and I was working for 2 great partners, just making money and not really sure of what I wanted to do in life. I really didn't know. I had no freaking clue. So, every summer, my sister and I would go to New York City. That's actually where I was born. And then I grew up in Las Vegas, and we would spend 3 months out of the year in the summertime with my grandma. So my mom had this very close friend. She used to work with her, very, very good friend. She was like family. Her niece was a radiologist. And so I was out with her one day. We were shopping, and she had told me, she goes, "Oh, this is what she does. She looks at these, x-rays." And so I said, that seems kind of cool. Plus, my grandmother always wanted me to be a doctor. However, I told her I didn't want to be a doctor because I thought they were idiots. Go figure, right? So, of course, I was young. So I said, well, maybe I should give it a try. Why don't I just apply? Because at the university, in my state, offered a radiography program that was 2 years. And at that time, it was a certificate program. Now they have made it into a 4-year degree. So I said, well, what the heck? So I went ahead and I applied for the program. And I had told the partners that I was thinking about going to x-ray school. They thought, well, why don't you just become an accountant? We'll help you through school. We'll pay for it. And because you're really good with numbers. And I had a decision to make. And I remember when I got my acceptance letter that I got accepted to the program because I had to apply, I had to write this essay, I had to make sure I had all my prereqs because I was behind on prereqs because I had taken a year off after I graduated high school because I had no idea what I wanted to do. So when I got my acceptance letter, I really thought about it and I said, and I turned it down and I said, no, I really want to go to x ray school. I really want to see this through. So as I was going through the motions and I started, taking the classes and I thought, oh, this will be easy, whatever. And I really didn't take it seriously and really wasn't applying myself into what I was learning. So naturally, I almost flunked out of x-ray school. And I had my program director, who was my clinical instructor, he says, listen, we're going to give you one more shot. You got to get your grades up. You really got to start applying yourself. I was young. I was 21 years old, and I was thinking more about partying every weekend with my friends and think, oh, yeah, I'll just do this. I did. But once I got that reality check on, okay, I really have to apply myself. I really have to do this. So I got one more shot to prove myself. So I gave it my all in my courses. I gave it my all in clinicals. And that's how I landed my first job after my clinical rotation in x-ray. So I did. I just stopped going out. I stopped doing all that stupid ass shit. And I went ahead and went to town and dove into my studies. So at the time that I was studying for the X-ray registry, this was I want to say in the summer of 2003, I was asked if I was interested in learning CT. They said they would cross-train me, they would pay me on the job because they were desperate for techs. Their workload was getting busier and busier, and they were desperate for techs. So naturally, I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I'm thinking, oh, it's probably not going to be that bad. Well, lo and behold, I asked myself, what the fuck did I just get into? So I started learning simple exams, like a head without, an abdomen and pelvis, while I was still working in x-ray. So, because I worked in x-ray for a couple years, and then I was approached to do CT, probably, I want to say, maybe like a year later. So that was like in 2003, because I was studying for the registry because I didn't graduate until 2002. So actually graduated in 2003. So I was set to graduate in December of 2003, but I was already finished with the program. So I went ahead and took the x-ray registry. I passed the registry, and then I continued my training in CT. So then 6 months later, after I passed, I completely left x-ray. I went to work in CT full time. I was not prepared for the challenges that were happening. It was really a mind fuck. I was not prepared. I wasn't prepared on how difficult it was. I wasn't prepared for the huge learning curve and all the complex exams that lied ahead. So the learning curve was huge, but I seemed to pick up things pretty quickly, and I needed to start studying for that registry. Now, at that time, there weren't a lot of study guides. There weren't college courses. There wasn't a program dedicated to CT. There was very few books on CT. There was like one registry review and then the MIC book where they had the CT cross trainer and then the registry review. That's all they had at that time. Like no course, no nothing, no seminar, no nothing, no CT boot camp. None of that existed at that time, at least in my state. Okay. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to do this and see if I pass. So I thought I knew everything in CT. Oh, I had been scanning long enough. Oh, this is easy. Oh, I could do this. Let me tell you, I failed miserably on that CT registry the first time. Miserably. Like I cried because the score was so bad. So that failure set me back. I wanted to quit because I thought, oh, well, I'm not good enough. The radiologists don't like me. One of them told me to go back to x-ray because I just, wasn't doing things correctly. I wanted to be a good tech. I wanted to learn how to be a good tech. So I did because I made a lot of mistakes. I went through a lot of trial and error, and I really started to apply myself and said, okay, Let's hammer this down. Let's figure this out. Let's see what we can do. So I took another position at a bigger hospital, probably a couple years later, and really started applying to knowing everything so I can be prepared for the registry so I know exactly how to go into it a second time. Then I was approached to take a supervisor's role for that hospital. I was at that hospital for 10 years. I ended up taking the registry again and passed with a wonderful score. I think I got like a 81% or something like that. Hey, if it's passing, it doesn't really matter, right? So at that time, as I took this supervisory role, I was also dealing with a lot of challenges of being a mom. So I was already married, I was a wife, and then I had a special needs daughter, which now I currently have two special needs kids because my youngest has autism. So my 12-year-old daughter, and then I also had a stepdaughter. So I was dealing with lots of children. So my middle child requires a lot of medical needs where she has a team of 10 specialists. So it was a lot to be a supervisor, to work, to be a wife, and to be a mom. But I also knew that I wanted to continue to excel. So what I did was, if somebody approached me and said, "Hey, maybe you should sit on the ARRT committee where they help, create the exam to improve the CT registry for the questions and everything." So I looked it up. I filled out, a form, and they said, "Hey, we would love to have you on the committee." So I sat on the committee for about 2 years. I have to say, it was one of the best experiences of my life to sit on that committee with all other people in that room to devise this test, which I cannot, because I'm under non disclosure. So I cannot disclose anything. Sorry, guys. So, but I always encourage techs, if there's any volunteer opportunities, because that is, you volunteer your time and they will pay for you to go volunteer your time. Do it. It's a great experience and you get to learn more on that side. And it's great and it looks great on your resume, especially when you say, "Hey, I volunteered for the ARRT. Hey, I volunteered for the ASRT." It is a good way to kind of just get more things under your belt. Now, at that time, because I was dealing with, being a new parent and doing all that, and plus volunteering my time, so I had to step down from my role as a supervisor because it was getting very challenging. So what I did was is I said, "Hey, well, I will take a government job. It's secure, and let's go on with the experience and let's continue, right?" So I went to work for the VA. So in Las Vegas, they were building a new VA hospital at the time. This was back in 2013. So my assignment temporarily until that hospital was built was to work out at Nellis Air Force Base. If any of you listening know, Nellis Air Force Base is the Air Force Base in Las Vegas, and they do have a hospital on that base. So I was able to work with a couple of the staff sergeants and a few of the airmen there. So there was like 4 or 5 of us in CT and me, the little civilian. I have to say, in my career, that was probably one of the best times in my career to learn how the military operates, especially on the hospital side. They learned a lot from me as far as the civilian side. I learned so much from them, on the military side. And I can tell you, like, our practices are very, very similar. There's a few things that are different because they have different policies and procedures, but it's pretty much the same. And I'll tell you, I have never worked with better techs than I did there. So, and I know some of them will be listening to my podcast. You guys are freaking awesome, and I miss them every day. But I know at some point we will circle back and we will see each other again, for sure. So I was also asked to be a preceptor for the techs to sign them off on the exams. Because at that time, I was one of the few that was registered, that was working in the department. So they came and asked me, their master sergeant asked me if I would do it. I said, absolutely. So I did that for a while. And then my ex-husband wanted to be closer to his family. So we ended up moving to Illinois in 2014. And this is where my trauma experience, and I learned a new machine, Toshiba, which is Canon now, that's where I started to gain more experience with that because it had been a while since I'd been in a trauma setting. So I went ahead and got more experience with that. In that time, I did end up taking a radiology management position at a sister hospital. And I did that for a good year. I ended up having another child, my last child, in the process. So when they hired me, I was still pregnant, which I was kind of shocked. And I said, well, I need a few months because I'm currently pregnant and I'm about to pop. But they did go ahead and hire me. And I basically turned that department around. I went ahead and, got them up to speed because they needed a lot of help. And so, but unfortunately, my position was eliminated because the director that was there was a little bit intimidated on my experience. So, of course, me being a technologist, what did I do? I said, well, I'm going to do what I do best. I will go back and be a tech. So I went ahead and took another position for the University of Illinois. And I went ahead and worked there for a while, and I was more on an outpatient basis as far as that. Oh. So I went ahead and gained more experience, and it was probably just a nice refresher to just be there as a technologist. So, in the midst of all that, I went through a really difficult divorce and then co parenting with my ex husband. So, I ended up leaving there and ended up working at the trauma hospital that I work at now. And it's just going through these different patterns and being at these different places in different stages in my life. It has really shaped me on the type of technologist that I have become. And I really enjoy teaching these newer technologists that are coming in so they know exactly, how to operate a scanner. I can't tell you how many times they call me in the department. They're like, Karina, can you please come start this IV? Because you're better at that I am, because I'm really good at starting IVs. Yeah, I'm kind of, boosting myself up there, but I am. Anybody in my department can tell you, they said, hey, who would you call to start an IV? The first person that they're going to say is me. Okay. Because I've taken the time to perfect it and to really hone in on that skill, or if they say, hey, I'm having a problem with this, with this exam. Usually I'm very good with complex exams. That's why the charge techs are always giving me the complex exams, right? So I hope that my story really helps you in shining as a technologist. You don't have to be afraid. You just have to work past that fear and just fucking be confident and just do the damn thing. Okay. That's what I did. That's why I became so successful, because I worked through that fear. I said, okay, well, fear. All right. Yeah, I'm scared. I'm still going to do it. Okay. So I hope my story really inspires you to be the best technologist that you can. Because no matter what obstacle you get thrown, and I got thrown a lot of obstacles, like my position got eliminated. I have 2 special needs kids. I had to step down because things were overwhelming. Whatever obstacle, you still can get back up and say, you know what? I'm going to do this because I know I can do it and I'm going to succeed. Okay. So that is it for this episode. So like I said, check out the show notes. Make sure you come to the live event. Check out my Instagram stories at the CT Educator. Of course, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email me at contact@thecteducator.com. Everything will be in the show notes. So come to the live event. We're going to have a lot of fun. Okay. So come to the live event. All the links will be in the show notes. If you're interested in applying for the CT Educator program, it's a coaching and mentorship program. Make sure you check out the link, apply to see if you're a good fit. And follow on Instagram, because I'll be posting about the live event for the next 3 weeks. Okay. So hopefully this episode was inspiring and helpful for you. Please like, share, subscribe so you can get the latest and greatest on this podcast. Okay. In next week's episode, I'm going to be starting a 10-episode podcast series, okay, on how you can be just the best technologist you can, what you need to be a CT technologist and what it requires. that's exactly that 10 episode. That's exactly what we're going to dive into. And each week there's going to be a new episode where I'm going to discuss different ways on your pathway to being a CT technologist. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will chat with you guys next week.